Hi, this is William Steele with All in VR. I'm All in VR, are you? So today I just want to talk a little bit about all the negative press around Facebook and its shifting to the Metaverse, or whatever the Metaverse actually is, and the drop in stock price that Oculus, Meta, Facebook has essentially had in this most recent quarter. Yes, they have lost a lot of money, and they've definitely shifted priorities. One thing that I think a lot of people are forgetting is that this whole idea of VR, AR, XR, this immersive industry is growing, and it is going to continue to grow, and it is going to be very, very big. I think at this point, unless you just don't understand it at all, even if you don't go into it, you should be able to understand and know that it's definitely going somewhere. It's going to be very, very big, and the growth potential increases every year. It grows more and more, not just linearly, but it's kind of starting to exponentially grow. In order to do that, you need certain pioneers to kind of build out that infrastructure. However, I do think that there's a few mistakes that Mark Zuckerberg has made. I'm not his biggest fan personally, and I'm not the biggest Facebook fan in general. But what I will say is they are helping to pioneer the VR, AR industry. Apple's going to be coming on board and doing that soon. So while Facebook has lost a lot of money, if they're able to stay in it for the long haul, they'll be able to recoup on that in the next 5 years, I would imagine. So I do think it's a good investment for Facebook. The only mistake maybe that Mark Zuckerberg has made is not taking the company private before doing so. If you look at companies that have managed to grow without turning a profit for a very long time, for instance, Amazon for a very, very long time, did not return a profit. They were spending a lot of money. They're always spending more money than they were making, and it took, I think, 10 to 15 years for them to actually turn a profit. Now, that was for a kind of startup company that was growing and had a long-term vision. And while I think Meta does, shareholders of Meta, or Facebook, are used to seeing certain types of returns and dividends and growth. And you're going to disenfranchise or make your investors, or I should say your stakeholders, very, very skeptical about spending all of this money, especially on something that is very, very new. Now, if you're a private company, doesn't really matter as long as you get your stakeholders, which are usually individual investment firms and VC firms, on board, which is a lot easier than trying to keep thousands or millions or however many stockholders or shareholders you have. That's a much tougher job. So perhaps he should have tried to take Facebook private with private equity first, then to try to grow the Metaverse, and that could end up being his downfall. And speaking of the Metaverse, this whole idea of a Metaverse, yeah, it's kind of become a joke. And the reason it's become a joke is, well, number one, the Metaverse that Facebook is trying to create or kind of own, Horizon Worlds, is not nearly as popular as something like VR chat. And I wouldn't say either of those, I wouldn't consider either of those a Metaverse per se. The whole idea of what is a Metaverse hasn't even really been defined. We have an idea from a book and film, Ready Player One, and that's about it. But if you ask me, the Metaverse isn't going to evolve from a single company creating a platform that people can collaborate on or interact in, this virtual environment. The Metaverse is, in itself, has the word meta, which means it doesn't really exist. So even forming a concept of who's going to own it and what's going to be probably doesn't exist. I think the closest thing that is synonymous with what the Metaverse might be is what we have today, which is the internet. We have all these web apps that run on computers and phones and everything else. It's all going over these standardized protocols, HTTPS and HTTP. It's all going over all these things that have been standardized over decades. And the Metaverse is probably going to evolve to be something very, very similar. We already have a standard that's been worked on, I think, but it started with Mozilla working on, what was it, A-Frame, which is basically an HTML5 based VR programming language, and you could build entire VR applications and worlds, and you've been able to do that, I think, since like 2013, and that continues to get better and better and better. So, I mean, if anybody should putting their money or a card somewhere are trying to build a metaverse, the tools for the metaverse already exist. And I'd say that's between A-Frame, which is essentially web VR, is what you call it. I mean, A-Frame is one area of web VR. It's my favorite, but web VR can encompass a whole bunch of different standards and things that make web VR up, which can be kind of put together. And you also have something else that's being used a lot now, which is OpenXR. And OpenXR, again, is an open development platform and language for building virtual reality applications, augmented reality applications, mixed reality applications, hence the XR, to cover all those. If anybody doesn't know, XR covers AR, VR, and MR. So we're going there, and it's happening. And you've got some companies that are pioneering the hardware, which is really the only important thing I'd say that Meta is really doing is they're pioneering all this hardware. And you've got one other company, ByteDance, which owns, I think it's Twitch that they own, and they've got the Pico series, and now they've got the new Pico 4 out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with all these new headsets, but that's what's right now is going to be driving it as a technology. As long as the software keeps up with the technology, and that's something that I've seen happen a lot, is you create this great hardware. For instance, these Nreal augmented reality glasses that I've got, they're awesome. They're simple technology. They weren't horribly expensive. They weren't like $3,500 like the Microsoft HoloLens. And they're lights, and hence called the Nreal Light, and you can put them on plug them into your phone, and you do things in augmented reality. But the applications aren't there. Great hardware, but the company, one of the things they did is they've been keeping a tight hold on their development platforms. Their APIs are very closed. You can't really access things at the hardware level. So if you can't access things at the hardware level and actually work with it, if you don't enable software developers and engineers to really build on it outside of the constraints that you build, you end up having a problem, and you're going to have a hard time getting a foothold beyond just. So if you're going to do hardware, just do hardware. And I could probably give that same advice to Meta. Like, sure, if you want to buy software companies and own some of the software and applications out there, by all means do it if that helps build your portfolio. But don't try to create the metaverse. You're not going to create the metaverse, and you're going to lose money doing it, which hopefully Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, Facebook, whatever, is figuring that out, because apparently that's where they dumped a lot of money. And I don't think that was worth it. I've gone in there, and it's fun, it's cool. Is it worth the amount of money that they put in when you compare it to something like VR chat? Not even remotely. So, I mean, yes, VR is here. It's not going anywhere. There's not going to be some crash. Somebody will continue to create the hardware. Maybe the winner in the end will be the Pico. We'll have to see what happens. See, hopefully the Meta Quest Pro is not a complete failure. I like it, I have it, and I think it'll do well. But it is a hefty price point compared to what else is out there. But I do think Facebook, yes, they need to spend more time making money. And there's been a few other VR companies that have done that, and AR companies. I think Microsoft has been focused more on commercial contracts and the business space. You look at who else? We have a whole bunch of other VR headsets that really focus on professional use cases, and they're expensive, but they're probably more close to making money on these things than Facebook. I mean, yeah, Facebook, Meta, whoever you want to call them. So this industry isn't going anywhere, but I do believe Mark Zuckerberg, if he wanted to go down this route of trying to kind of take over the VR, immersive AR industry, well, should have just either A, focused on hardware and stuck with that, because that probably can make money, or should have taken the company private before doing this, and he could have worked on a long-term vision. It's hard to work on these very long-term visions when you have everyday stakeholders in your that want to see your company make money and grow, and that's why he's lost, what is it, $900 billion, I think, at this point? Is that I forget what the number is. Let's just double check really quick. How much money has Facebook lost? Oh, okay. Well, it says 80 billion, but I don't know if that's the total amounts or not. It is 200 billion, okay, in one afternoon. So I don't know. Total market capitalization, 900. So it's in the billions. It's well over 100 billion. I think might be like 300 billion. So it's a good amount. And problem is, he doesn't have to just convince his private investment capital firms that this is a good long-term investment, and I think it is. I think it makes sense. I think he's proven with just the sales of the headset alone show that. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, people buy the headsets and they put them away. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. You know, people get excited, but as the technology gets better and better, it gets lighter and lighter. Like, it's not, it's the adoption that's taking some time, but it's exponential adoption at this point. We're at the point of no return. This is not going to come crashing down. This is going to continue. It's not going anywhere. So I wouldn't recommend you as a personal investor necessarily to put your money in this, at least not in somebody like Meta, Facebook, because of I don't think he made the right choices in how he went about this. So this could, hopefully it doesn't. I do want to see Meta continue, and hopefully they're able to shift out of this and focus on areas where they can continue to make money and just keep the hardware coming out. Keep the Oculus Quests coming out. They're fantastic. They're good pieces of hardware. Hopefully they remain a hardware maker, or if they don't, then they've got to pivot their platform to allow other headsets to be able to access their software library and such if they don't plan on being a hardware maker. So I'm pretty sure at this point, with such a big company, they'll get out of the mess. So, you know, maybe you want to put your money in a low point and let it grow, but VR industry, AR industry, XR, it's not going anywhere. So all these people that are complaining about VR and AR and, oh, who's going to want to work with glasses on or this or that, you know, just as many people don't like the idea, there's plenty of people that do. There's people that when they work from home, be able to kind of get out of the environment or get into a virtual environment is great, or to be able to have more tools and collaboration tools available to you while you're sitting. You really want to sit on a Zoom call? You telling me you love Zoom calls? I don't. They get boring as heck. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I think, yeah, Facebook made some mistakes. Meta made some mistakes. Mark Zuckerberg made some mistakes, could have done this better, but I think it's far from a death knell. I think they'll get out of it. I don't think it's the end of the world. But yes, I'm kind of get annoyed every time I see somebody just like crapping on Mark Zuckerberg. You want to crap on somebody, crap on Elon Musk for getting distracted with buying Twitter. That's the dumbest thing that ever happens. But whatever, I don't really care what he does with his money. So yeah, so that's just my rant for the day. This is Will Steele with All in VR, and I will talk to you later. Bye.